Hello everyone, welcome to Alex Duran. My name is 3D Stuff Tutorials, and it's been a minute since our first video. I've been super busy trying to find a job, and I've also found some animation work as well, but I'll get back into that at the end of the video. Let's get back into the part 2 of this video, trying to texture the axe. Last time we ended off with an axe looking a little something like this. And it looks all fine and well, but let's give it some textures to really spice it up a bit. So how do we do that? First, we need to make the textures by UV unwrapping the model. And making textures is like wrapping a present. The UV layouts would be the wrapping paper, and the textures would be the material. We need to wrap the texture around the model using the UV layouts. So how do we go about making a UV map? You're going to need two things. You're going to need the model itself, and then you're going to need a UV sheet to look at your UVs. So let's drag and get another screen over here. We can then change the editor type to UV editor. This is where we'll see all our UVs. So let's start with the axe handle itself. Left click to select, tab into edit mode. You can then press 3 to select faces, select any face, and then press A to select everything. If you press U, it will bring up a unwrapping menu. There's a whole bunch of options you can choose here. You can choose whichever one best fits what you're trying to unwrap. If you do want to go the lazy route of unwrapping, you can also select Smart UV Project, and you can leave the settings as is. They generally work 100% fine. And this is what we get. Now this is fine, but if you're like me and you want to make your own custom UVs to really understand how the texture wraps around this object, let me show you exactly how to do that. What we're going to need to do is create seams. To do that, we can then press 2 to go into edges. Now what I want to do is create seams around the top, the bottom, and somewhere down the back middle of this axe. Somewhere where the camera hopefully won't see. So, to select these edges, if you want to select around all these edges around that geometry's edge flow, we can then press Alt and then double click, and it should select all of the edges. You can then right click. Then we can scroll down to it says Mark Seam. Now this red line shows us that we have this. If you're not happy with that seam, you can then right click. There's also an option to clear your seam as well, but I'm not going to do that. So let's do the same for the bottom. And somewhere down the middle here. And it's important not to get these bits in as well, because the software will unwrap along these edges as well. So shift and select it to unselect it. Do the same for this bottom one. And now same deal, Mark seam. Now this is how the computer will unwrap it. If we press 3, select any face, press A to select everything. This is what our UVs look like. And if we press U and just regular unwrap right now, we're going to see a difference. And this is what we get. I'm okay with this. I'm happy with this. And if you want, you can further manipulate these vertices and edges to get a more straight UV layout. I will do that later on. So let's carry on with the next bits to unwrap. Press Shift and Alt to select more than one edge at once. Another thing you guys can do as well when you UV unwrap is you can also select the option to project from view. When it says the brackets bounds, this means it will keep it within this border. If you unwrap it without the bounds, it will look something like that. And that's fine as well, but with bigger objects you might want to keep them in the border. Or the image you use will only show within this area. Alright, so that's everything UV unwrapped. Now we can start making the textures. So let's change the UV editor. Let's change this to shader editor. Now you can see we get a base color over here. That's why everything is just gray. There's no actual textures to it at all. Alright guys, brief intermission here, just to educate you people. So if you want to make textures, you're going to need between 3 or so different texture maps to actually make a decent looking texture. You can use more, you can use less, but 3 is a good starting point. So what are these 3 maps you're going to need? You're going to need a color map or a base map. You're going to need a normal map, and then you're going to need a roughness map. So what is each? A base map, that's the box standard surface color of what you're trying to texture. So if you're making something wooden, a wooden texture of something is your base color map. You would then need a specular map or a roughness map. These are generally your black and white maps. These maps help for making parts of your mesh darker, parts of your mesh lighter, and they give more shadows to your model, making it look more lively, more realistic. And lastly, you're going to need normal maps. Normal maps are the very funky, weird, purplish, rainbow color looking maps. Normal maps create small 3D bumps on your object. For the wood, they're going to add like little nooks and crannies and like splinters just to boost the realism and make your model look a bit more beefy. So let's finally texture the axe handle. Tab out of edit mode, select the axe handle. Now if you want to add textures into this viewport here, we can go about this by 2 ways. We can either take our image from our folders, just drag and drop it in, or just like adding a cube in the 3D viewport area, you can do the same in the shader editor. If you press Shift and A, it brings the add menu, and we want to add a texture. We want to add an image texture. Let's open it up and browse your computer to whatever texture you want to use. Select it and then open image. And there we have it. Now because this is just the base color, we don't need to do anything to it. You can just connect the color node to the base color node by dragging this little yellow dot towards the other yellow dot called base color. Now nothing's happened in the viewport and you're probably wondering why. The reason that is because we are in, if you hover up over here, you can see that the viewport shading is currently in solid mode, so it just shows gray no matter what you've done to the model. You can change these different viewports by clicking on the images next to them. This is wireframe. If we click this button here, this will be the viewport for shading. Another shortcut you guys can learn is if you press Z or Z, it brings up this wheel and you get all the options, same as top here, but all options here. And you can click on the buttons that you're hovering over, or you can press the buttons that correspond to them. So if I want to go to solid mode, instead of clicking, I can then just press 6 and we're back into the grayscale mode. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the other 2 maps that I told you about, the roughness and the normal map. This is the roughness map we have over here. So because the specular map is a black and white map showing shades that are darker and places that are lighter, we need to change it from sRGB, in other words color, to non-color. So then we can take, now that it's in non-color, we can take the color node, we can take that and plug it into the specular node right here. You can see it's added some shadows. Some areas are shadowy, some areas are darker. We don't have anything quite around us to really show much shadows. And then now lastly, we have our normal map. Just like the specular map, this is not in color. It does have colors, but it's not a color map. So what we need to do is change it from sRGB to non-color. Instead of just connecting the color to the normal, we need to do a little bit of an extra step here. Now what we need to do is we need to add a vector map, a normal map. So let's go Shift A to add. Yeah, let's go into vector and we're going to add a normal map. And you can see here we can then connect up the color to the normal map's color and then connect the normal to the normal. And there we go. You might not be able to see the bumps that you've created. If that is the case, you can always bump up the strength of the normal map. This will make the normal map push out those bumps a little bit more. So let's go to a value of 2. There we go. You can see it's slightly changed on this side. You can always bump it up to about 5 and 10. I'm just going to go 5 for now. I think that looks really good. Alright, and I'm just going to quickly time-lapse myself busy texturing the axe head and the nut. Alright guys, and this is what I have so far.
Wow.
So much better than the grey model we had before. Like I told you guys previously, if you press Z, you can then switch into render mode. Exactly what it looks like. But it's a bit dark right now, and that's because we have no lighting. We have literally nothing else in the scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a light. I'm just going to add just a quick plane on the bottom here, just so that it's not shining on nothing. You understand? Shift A, let's add a plane. Mesh, let's go into plane. Let's get a nice plane. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create an infinity curve. So let's tab into edit mode. Let's press 2 to select edges. Take this last bit, this last edge here. E to extrude along the Z axis. Let's move it up. We're going to do a shot round about here. So maybe you'd want to extend this out a bit more as well, just so we don't see it anymore. Now, to make an infinity curve, what you're going to need is you're going to need to create this corner, and you're going to have to smooth it out. Control R to add a loop cut somewhere there. Do the same for the top. And what you're going to do is just go side view. With that still selected, grab on the X and the Y. Now if you want to grab in multiple directions at once, what you're going to have to do is you're going to press G, and we want to move it along the Z and the X axis, so blue and green. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Z. You can see the blue line, and instead of pressing X, we're going to then press Shift and the Y axis. If you press Shift and any other direction, it excludes that direction. So we don't want to move it along the Y. So we press Shift Y, and you can see the red and blue both highlighted. So let's move it around about somewhere there. Now it's got somewhat of a curve. Luckily with modifiers we can make this curve seem a bit more realistic and believable. Let's click on the modifiers properties, and let's add that subdivision surface. And then like last time, we right click and say shade smooth. There we go. Now it looks like it goes on forever. So we actually have a camera ready. If you guys didn't delete it in your first startup scene, it should still be there. If not, you can just add a camera by Shift A and select camera, and then you can position it wherever you want. I'm going to leave this camera there for now. If you want to look into the camera, you press 0, and this is what we see. Let's render this bad boy.
Yeah, boy.
Now it's still very dark, and that's because there's still no lights in the scene. If you want to get out of the camera, press 0 again, and let's just go into material view. To add a light, it's the same as adding a camera, adding a mesh on the bottom here. Shift A, select light. We're just going to use a point light for now. We're going to grab 2 point lights. G to grab it, move it up on the Z. Let's first of all, let's just see what that looks like for now. It's looking like nothing. So with the light selected, if we go down over here to the tools, if we select this one that looks like a light bulb, will tell us all the properties for the light bulb. Let's increase the power. The power is more like the strength of the light measured in watts. That's why there's a W here. So let's bump this up to 9.
9,000! Alright.
That, I know it's bright, but that's fine. And what we're going to do, let's grab this, move it on the X, and this will be our front light, just so we can see the front of the X. Let's move it a bit higher up. I want the shadow to still be on the wall though. There we go. Let's press 0. This is what our X is looking like so far. I do, however, just want to add another light, just at the back. Let's put this to about 500 watts. And change the color to make it a yellowish orange color. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, you can barely see it. Let's move this up to then about 800. All I want is a nice glow along the edges. Let's move this back a bit along the X, and maybe a bit down on the Y. There we go. You guys can see we have a nice crisp glow on that side there. Right guys, so finally we've got everything all textured. We've got some lights, we've got a nice backdrop so it's actually not floating in mid-air. Now last thing we have to do is we can render this now as the final product, final image for whatever you want to do. If we go into this tab over here, the render properties, it's got everything you would need to know in terms of setting up your renders frame, in terms of how wide or tall you want your image to be. If you might have noticed this, but my renders might look a bit different to yours because I'm using Cycle's rendering engine, which I recommend you switch to just because it's far better of a rendering engine compared to what you guys are probably using, which is Eevee. This is Blender's default rendering, but I would suggest you guys use Cycle's rendering. What's great about cycles rendering is it gives you two options. You can either use your CPU or your GPU, and whichever one you think will do a better job of rendering. I'm going to leave my settings completely as is. And we're actually done with our texturing. We can go into this tab over here, hit render, and we can select render image, or optionally you can press F12. Just give it a minute. It's just going to calculate all the lights, the shadows, alles. And there we go. Once it's fully rendered, this is what we have. If you want to save this image and keep it for showboating purposes or whatever you want to do with it, you go down here to image, and we can just save or save as. I'm just going to save as and title it whatever you like, and then save image. You can also change the image format. You can change it to a JPEG. Everyone likes JPEGs. Save as image. And there you have your fully saved render. But let's just get a better render just for the thumb. Alright, I'm happy with that. And now let's do a final render by just pressing F12. And once it's done, I'll show you guys what it looks like.
And once it's done, I'll let you guys see what the final picture looks like.
And once it's done, I'll show you guys what it looks like.
And here's the final image. I hope this helped you guys with modeling, texturing, lighting, and also trying to get a render sorted out. It's been 6 months since part 1. Sorry for keeping you guys waiting for so long. Like I said, I've been busy, but I've also gained some knowledge from the animation work I did. I learned some particle systems, some hair simulations, some cloth simulations. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I've got a lot in store for you guys. And I plan on posting a bit more frequently, at least more frequently than 6 months. So keep an eye out on this channel. Let me know what you guys want me to explain next. It might not be my next video topic, but it'll keep me in the loop what you guys are interested in. If this was at all helpful, please leave a like. I might remake this beginner tutorial in the future though, but for now, I plan on making more time-lapse videos talking about the process in real life and my working process. If that interests you guys, please give me ideas on what you want me to make and challenge me. And challenge yourself, guys. Now that you've seen all this stuff, make a better, cooler axe. 10 times better than the one you made last time. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys and girls. See you guys in the next video. Cheers.